Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to the Lifetime Training Podcast. I can't wait. Today, we have the one and only Mr. David Freeman. David has been with Lifetime for 10 plus years. He's been in the industry for a long time. He's our national program leader for Alpha Training. He's been featured in the Experience Life magazine on the cover. He's been in, you may see him on Men's Health, doing workouts every week, Men's Journal. He's a former collegiate and professional football player. And I always see it on his Instagram. He's always with his family and family man and kids, with his wife, Michelle, and father to Bane and Harley. I can't thank you for being on the show enough, man. Great to have you.
Man, it's great to be here, man. I was always pinging you. I'm like, hey, when am I going to get on the show? But jokingly, man, I mean, obviously you and I, we go back, man, and what you're doing and what you're showcasing to the world, fitness professionals and other individuals as well, is exactly what we need more of: the education and making it fun and making it digestible. So I'm excited to be here today and throw down with you, brother.
Thank you, man. And you know, one of the other main reasons too is to just let people know what opportunities are out there in the industry. I want to start in the industry and then more specifically, obviously, with Lifetime. And that's really what, I love. You've got an amazing story. I know some of it, I don't know all of it. And I'd love for you to share that, just so, again, people can understand this is a viable career path for people. It's only going to get bigger and better once this whole thing ends with COVID, ends, or we deal with it differently and we move forward. So I'd love for you to just, let's start from the beginning, man. How did you get started?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. My dad, mom, and sister, we were close knit. We still are close knit. And ever since I can remember, it was not an option. Exercise and being healthy was what it is that we needed to do underneath the Freeman household. So, getting up as early as I can remember, I want to say 8 years old or so, and pulling tires, running hills, and just getting after it. And that was our norm. And I mean, that is how I kind of got into a lot of the physical activity and just physical fitness in general. And my parents, they always instilled as far as the mindset. They were huge on mindset. So when I think of my foundation, it always goes back to that. I know I can do any and everything I put my mind to, and I always share this as far as the way you think dictates the way you act, which yields the results that you get. And I preach that constantly. So mind right, body right. And that has been able to be held up all the way up till my 37 years of age now. So that's kind of like the foundation. I mean, I could walk you through high school going all the way up, but you let me know.
And one of the things I want to just key in on there, because you talk about mindset and it is so important. And I've been fortunate enough to be in some classes that you've taught and things like that. And one of the things that, stuck with me, I remember when you were going through the class, it was a pretty intense portion of the workout. Mm-hmm. And he was like, man, get into that. You were like something around, get into that dark space, embrace that dark space and push past that dark space. And I think there was so much power there, man. And, you've been able to connect and we'll get into that as we get going, but I'd love for you to talk about that for a second. Because that dark space is, sometimes for some people beginning, it's not, I guess it's dark for them, but obviously not relatable to us. But take us through kind of where that came from and how to get over that.
Yeah, I would say the first time, and most people will probably, laugh at this. The first time I experienced being lost, if you will, was when I went overseas. And the reason why I share this with everybody is because experience is always going to be the best teacher. And what happened was I just knew I was going to the NFL. Like nobody could tell me any different. And this is the narrative that was painted and kind of just put in my head over and over, not necessarily from my parents, but it was almost like the expectation because you were living up to what everybody expected. So the end result is, the pinnacle, which is arriving at the NFL. So going to University of Richmond, having a great career there, and then having an injury that kind of put things on the back burner going into my senior year. A lot of the things that I was seeing was starting to slowly go into what you would call that dark place because there was the uncertainty, the fear of the unknown. When you're not getting the calls or the receiving a lot of the mail or whatever else you want to call it at that time from those recruits. So at one point in time, I had to make a decision. All right, continue to train, continue to bust my butt. But then eventually I just ended up going overseas into a Euro League to keep my resume active. And this is where I want to go into what you were talking about, the dark place, because the uncertainty was very real at that time. I loved it. I was in Denmark and France. I was able to experience so many different cultures and individuals over there. But that's when I really found out who I was. Identity is such a key piece in our lives, but a lot of us may think we know who we are, but it's not until you go into that dark place that you really discover exactly who you are. And that's the thing. I think any and everybody at some point in time is going to experience this. It's how you actually react to this that's going to be the game changer and set you up for success in your life. Success is relative, right? So while overseas, I did the most journaling, I did the most reading, and I was the most present that I ever was because I didn't have a lot of the distractions, the computers, the phones, the friends, the family. And when I was able to come into my own, that's where I was able to find my why and my purpose. The whole time I was thinking it was football, it was NFL, right? But in the reality, the universal language is two things: movement and music, right? And I love how I was able to discover that while over in France. It's a language barrier, but guess what? I just said the universal language is movement and music. So when we were working out and we were doing certain things, I saw how the team started to gravitate towards me because they wanted to do the same things. They wanted to be as fast, as strong, based off of what they were seeing and how that translated out to the football field. So when I started to come into my own and starting to share that knowledge of me coming out of that darkness into this light, it started to hit me. I'm like, oh, I'm helping these individuals change their performance and change their mindset behind how we can start winning games. And that's where that light bulb went off. And that's where I started to transition into the health and fitness industry. So I had to go and isolate myself in that place where I was, very, very conflicted with what it was I should be doing in life. And that's where I was able to come and find that light. So that's what I mean by going to that dark place.
Yeah, man. And I can't tell you, we've had, everybody's is different, but the failures, and you've heard this, I'm sure, through everything that you've been through and as myself, it's the failures that define us as we overcome them and move forward. And any of us that have not made ourselves that uncomfortable and got to that point, you ain't, I don't think you're your best self yet. I don't think you know how to be your best self yet. And I can't, I just respect the hell out of that. And that was awesome. I've never heard that story. So thanks for joining us with that one. And so moving on now, obviously you started out as a young kid and, it was ingrained, you made it to the NFL. You made it to overseas. Yeah, exactly. But then you brought it back in and you got into health and fitness. And so take us from there. Cause I remember, you were with us early on and I remember seeing, wait a minute. I was going past and it was when I had left for my little hiatus that I left for. And all of a sudden I'm looking and I see David on, a big window on a Les Mills, ad. So take us through all of that stuff, man.
Yeah. So after getting back from France in 2007, I ended up going into my first job interview. And it was with Lifestyle Family Fitness, right? And we were acquired by LifeTime in 2011. But that's when I got into it. I did my 3-part interview. I did my case study, and I just knew I was going to rock it out. And keep in mind, had a lot of people skills and whatnot, and definitely can talk. But I've never had an interview before, and this was something different for me. And also, I want everybody to keep in mind, I've always been picked on a team, selected, or, the first, whatever it may be, captain. I went through this 3-part interview, and I tell you this right now. It was the first time that I was told you're not the right fit for the team. And I got denied. I got denied my job, right? Or the job. I went down the street 5 minutes. I had a phone call with one of my close friends. His name's Cliff Coker. You might have met him before, Stella. And I literally told him, I was like, man, this is the first time I ever been told, no, you're not good enough. And that was a slap in the face. But at the same time, I went to a dark place before, so I know how to be resilient. I called my circle. I got a close circle of individuals. And I called my boy Cliff, and I told him what happened. And he said, you did what? You told him what? He said, listen, man, you don't go in there and tell them you're so honest, which is great, David. I love you for that. But you got to speak exactly what it is that they need to hear, like how you're going to help the company, how you're going to help them grow. They want to know about your football aspirations and how you like working out over here and doing X, Y, and Z. He said, you go in there and you nail this next interview. I went 5 minutes down the street, same company, not knowing it was going to be the regional manager. You might remember, I don't know if he's with us anymore, but Matt Rulo. And I ended up connecting with him. And I want to say maybe 10 minutes after that conversation, he hired me. Not knowing he was a regional manager, he hired me. From there, I hit the ground running. I didn't have a lot of clients coming out the gate. So everybody who thinks it's just you get in there and then you got a whole bunch of clients, that wasn't the case. I saw everybody who came into the club beelining into the studio, right? Group fitness. I'm like, man, what's going on in there? So I went in there and I started taking the classes. I started breaking bread with the instructors and all the members. And then I ended up getting certified in Les Mills, body pump. Once I went through that certification, I ended up tapping into a whole nother demographic that I probably would have never tapped into. And from there, I went to these regional summits. I kept continuing my education and developing myself. And then at some point in time, somebody saw me perform and they said, hey, we want to fly you over to New Zealand to do this marketing campaign and teach a class. And I was just like, dang, this happened very quickly. But this is where I keep going back to. I needed to go into that dark place for these opportunities to arrive and trust, you know, who you are and how you deliver that 24/7, 365. And I stayed true to myself. And now you kind of fast forward, I ended up, once again, the acquisition of LifeTime in 2011 was one of the best things that ever happened, because we always looked at LifeTime as, you know, this posh, you know, this is just, you know, the best of the best down the street, but we didn't really know what we didn't know. So when we actually came into LifeTime and they started telling me how, oh, you have heart rate monitors here, or you do metabolic testing here, I was outsourcing all these different things, go to Dick's or go to Meredith College to get this and that done. And everything was underneath one roof. And I was just like, is this real? So when that whole acquisition took place, it was game over. I already knew that I was going to be able to hit home runs and then surround myself with people that were smarter than me to help develop me and make me better within my craft. So everything kind of, you know, expedited very quickly. And as you know, our relationship came about with our proof of concept. The godfather himself of Alpha Guys is right here, Mr. Jason Stella. And I applaud you and Larson and Manella for saying, hey, let's create this proof of concept. And then we fast forward to Arizona and we created our first Alpha One studio.
But that's, you know, something that you did too, that I think is shouldn't be hidden in this is you took those chances of moving, and you were lucky enough with, you know, I don't know when you were married or not, if you were married then, but going from, I guess, North Carolina, then to Georgia, right? And then came to Arizona, then went to Minnesota, then, you know, so, you know, a lot of people don't take those risks, man. And so it's, I think that dark place also helped you get and be able to, you know, take those risks and move on from it as well. So
yeah, with high risk come high reward, man. So you definitely, I would tell any and everybody, being able to go overseas opened up my eyes to opportunity. And being able to now be in 5 different markets within LifeTime, I've learned something from each market. Yeah. So I mean, definitely travel, have a supporting spouse. I mean, they definitely got to be all in and make sure they see the vision clearly too, because they complement. You're only going to be as strong as your spouse is going to allow you to be. So you got to make sure that they're on board with you and they support it.
That's awesome. Awesome. So, you know, obviously then, you know, you came in, you were in Georgia, lifestyle happened, then in North Carolina, I believe that was.
Yep.
Then went into Georgia, and that's when were you GTC or
GTC? I was GTC. So I was group training coordinator, and at this point in time, you remember this too, the ultimate workout. We were trying to create the proof of concept with our CEO and founder, Ron McCarty. And me, I saw everybody kind of like, oh man, what is this? This is crazy. This is bananas. Yep. I looked at it once again as an opportunity. I can make this thing hum. I know that our CEO and founder is passionate about this. When we look at play, right? Play was a big piece, cardio, strength, balance, all these different elements, CSB, remember that? Yep. All these different elements, how do you bring this to life? The number one thing I kept as far as a foundation is fun, right? I don't care if we're playing horseshoes or if we're doing ultimate workouts. I made it fun. And that's what people connected to. They connected to that experience of having fun. And once we blew that program up, that's kind of got, you know, eyes on, okay, this individual took this proof of concept that we were trying to deliver and delivered on it. I want to say it was around a $10,000 program. And at that point in time, that was huge. as far as a program. And like I said, that's when we kind of started seeing this emergence of CrossFit and what was going on. And going back to you, as far as this being innovative and how do we have an answer for this? How do we create something for the demographic that wants us to be able to cater to this? That's what we were able to do. And I'm like forever thankful for you guys trusting me with it. And I mean, we look at it years later and it's one of our strongest brands within Lifetime.
Yeah, yeah. And that's such a big thing. And I've talked about it previously on podcasts with people who have been super successful as yourself. And it's so crazy when you look at what's required to truly make a career and make a good living as a health and fitness professional. And certain person knocked me recently, no, not really, about a year ago, because we at Lifetime don't call trainers, we say health and fitness professionals. I'm like, well, what's wrong with that? Like, why wouldn't you want to elevate this? So, but in that, it's, you've got to have the ability to connect with people. You got to be smart and learn the technical element. You got to understand the business side because it's still a business within the business. And, I think you've done that. You are that perfect mix of all of those particular things, which is why you've seen the success that you have. I'd love for you to kind of talk through where were the struggles, because obviously some of that stuff is a skill set, some of it's God-given, but still then honed in to build that skill. Talk us through, kind of where have you picked those pieces up along the way, and which ones have you seen the most value in?
Yeah, I would say the thing that comes natural to me is people skills, and that came from me playing on different teams growing up and knowing how to work together on teams. So the people skills came natural to me because of all the touches that I had from it. The areas of struggle is learning the business and how it's always evolving. So whether that's scrubbing P&Ls or creating pivot tables that make numbers make sense, that part, because I'm not in front of a person, now I'm in front of a computer. And I like to humanize a lot of the things that I do and make it social and make it fun. Remember, I went back to what makes things fun is fun. So where I knew I had areas of opportunity, I leaned heavily into individuals that I know that was their strong suit. And I have no issue with identifying what my weaknesses are. And that's what I think sometimes gets people caught up, is not being able to let that ego go and embrace what your strengths are, but also embrace what your weaknesses are. And fine tune those weaknesses, but understand what your gift is and hone in on that. Yep. We hear this a lot within our Lifetime ecosystem, is the art and the science, EQ, IQ. I know I'm very heavy on EQ. I know I have the art down to a science. I play on words there, but at the same time, I know that if I look at the Lindsay Ogdens, or if I look at the Tom Manellas or the Jason Sells, whoever it may be, if I know where my weaknesses are, I'm going to come to them to be able to be developed in that area and get that support. So I now know how to close that gap. So I strongly encourage people all the time, always learn, always be learning, right? ABL, always be learning. And then also know when to ask for help. Don't have such a big ego that you think you have to do it all by yourself.
Yep. That's awesome. So, the other thing that you've done just a miraculous job of is obviously building yourself as a brand within Lifetime, but then also building yourself within the brand outside of Lifetime. And I think that is so important. Can you talk about those, how have you been able to navigate, things like you mentioned the Les Mills opportunity and taking and jumping on that, the men's health side of things, and then obviously that'll bring us all the way through to some of the things that you're doing right now and in ways to get access to David, and get his energy, his programming, and all of those beautiful things all in one.
Yeah, the social piece is so strong. And I obviously grew up in that era, right? And now we're deep in this era. So I want to say Facebook maybe launched maybe around 2004 or 5 or so. So, and only people who were in college could get on it at that point in time. Yeah. And it evolved, right? And then it had a broader demographic. But myself, YouTube was my outlet at that point in time. You can go back and look at 2007 or whatever year it was, and I was pushing out content. And I was just, once again, connecting with people beyond the state that I was in, beyond the nation that I was in. I was international, connecting with people. And when I saw that as that, not only an opportunity, but wow, remember, universal language, movement and music. So people are now gravitating towards me because of an exercise, because of a wow factor. And when I started building these relationships over the years, it just became more and more natural. I always tell people, you don't have to be like a crazy pro on social media. Create content that is valuable to you, and you start to build a following based off of those individuals who find it valuable as well. What you need not to do is try to be like somebody else.
Mhm.
It goes back to the identity piece. Knowing who you are and staying true to yourself is unique. We all have a unique fingerprint. We all are unique within who we are. If you embrace that superpower and elevate it daily, trust me, they will come. People will start to gravitate towards you. It's something for any and everybody out there. Stay true to yourself. So with the networking piece, all right, we're humans first. So I always remove a title. So regardless if you're a CEO, CMO, or just the person that I met down the street, you're a human first before the title. So when it comes to Men's Health, Men's Journal, Kettlebell Kings, or whatever it may be, I connect with people. I reach out to people. I'm consistent, right? So if I
That's key,
don't hear
man.
anything back from you on the first time, you're going to get maybe 20 more emails from me or text messages from me, because I'm that passionate about what it is that I'm delivering. If you say, hey, man, you're not it, great. I now know, but guess what? That's not going to stop my momentum. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And eventually what happens is people start to see your value that they once turned down, and now they come back to you. And I always tell people, don't kill don't kill them with kindness, heal them with kindness. So lead by example. For that person who said no to you 1,000 times, they eventually will come back once they start to see the value that they could not see initially.
Yep.
So the big message there, stay true to yourself and trust me, and know your worth. The value's there.
Awesome. Well, there's two other things that I want to dive, into. One is this amazing thing that you've been involved with and are one of the top chairs for with regards to inclusion at Lifetime Fitness. Obviously, a huge thing right now in the world. And would love for you to share some thoughts on. I don't know that a lot of people know that we've got something like this going on. So would you
Yeah.
mind spending some time there?
Yeah, so our Inclusion Council was created last year, and a lot of people think that it was a reactive to what transpired with the George Floyd murder. But in reality, 2 years prior to that, it was a lot of groundwork being done. I do feel like the George Floyd murder expedited the process, but it's not a reactionary type piece at all. Being on the council as a director in partnership with Trisha Dennis as well, what we are doing right now, we have these cornerstones that we always want to be able to speak to, and we want to be able to give back to the community. We want our individuals to reflect our community and be able to have voices not only heard, but actually those voices are now creating movement and action within what it is that we're doing. So it's been eventful, and I mean that in a good way, because I'm learning so much as a Black male. Over the years I've learned a lot, but I thought I knew a lot, but until I actually got into this council and actually hear so many different perspectives and how people actually do interact and do certain things, and how they might be oblivious to certain things just because they never were aware until it was brought to their attention. I would say it is a privilege being a Black male in our world, because the way that I was raised, it was never necessarily saying that you were at a disadvantage. My parents never made me feel that way, but they made me very aware as far as what world we live in. And I never use that as a victim piece or an excuse. I always aim high, and I always shoot beyond the stars and land upon the moon, whatever it may be. I don't make excuses. I make a way. And that's not to say everybody has that mindset.
Yep.
You have to understand, a lot of the individuals that come from these environments that do not have the resources or the tools to help elevate them and get them to certain places that we see as success. We need to understand that and address that. So going into the inner city youth and speaking to these kids is something I am passionate about doing, giving them visibility as far as, look, what we were able to do. My wife and I go and speak to the kids. Look what we were able to do. You can do it too. So you don't have to become a product of your environment. You can be an example and come back to your environment and make sure that they're taken care of. So we are doing that. We are expanding beyond the Lifetime walls as far as connecting with community. We're closing the gap when it comes to leadership and representation from all kinds of gender as well. And we just want to make sure that the core values are constantly being heard. And we want people to understand we're not trying to change your perspective or your view. We just want to be able to celebrate the differences and understand that we might not always see eye to eye, but we should know what is good and what is wrong. And we should be able to stand together on those things.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you so much for doing all of that. And, our country and our world and our company is going to be better for it. So thank you so much there. Well,
Sure.
kind of bringing it back now, obviously you've got a ton of things that are going on between alpha, virtual training. And I'd love for you to talk about some of those things that, what's alpha got, in store for us into the future here and currently, and then talking about how they can get connected with you through the app.
So Alpha is a pretty established brand. So we are pretty much fine tuning all the different things that it relates to programming when it comes to the app. So Alpha, when you think of it as a whole, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle. It's Alpha is what I tell people. When you look at it, yes, you have Olympic lifting. Yes, you have body weight movements like calisthenics. And yes, you have metabolic conditioning, right? That's nothing new. It's been around for years. The way we deliver on that brand promise is what separates us. So when we start to incorporate the progressive programming and how it is objective to an end result, that's number one. When we look at the heart rate training and all the other ways that we can actually incorporate a full programming, when we look at nutrition, when we look at recovery, these are the things that make us a game changer when it comes to specific alpha training. Take it a step further. When we look at the community is broad. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter if you are in CrossFit, LifeTime, Orange Theory, Barry's Boot Camp. By the end of the day, we're moving, and we should be celebrating people in movement. The community is people wanting to be healthy and fit, and we celebrate that. And last but not least, the coach is what brings it all together, right? It does not matter what's on paper. It does not matter if you have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't matter if you know how to, gravitate to a type of community. The coach is what brings it all together. They are the heartbeat that makes it come to life. We talked about brand a little bit earlier. I always talk about elevating the brand within the brand. And the parallel that I drive here is think of the NBA as being LifeTime and think of you being your favorite NBA player. They both have to coexist for this NBA, this whole institution to rise and get better. You got to have those Larry Birds, those Magic Johnsons, the LeBron James, and Michael Jordans to drive that brand awareness. And the more and more that we can drive that home, the more and more the brand is going to elevate. So when we look at the 3 C's that we always speak about when we talk about certification, clear, compelling, and consistent is what we deliver on. Clear within our identity, compelling within delivering on the experience, and consistency on the brand. So if we hit on those 3 C's, we're always going to be able to elevate. You said the virtual piece. I want to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so now what we were doing is everything was in club, right? Everything, you had to come to the club to get the workout and experience, the mind-blowing experience. Now what we have is the virtual training app. So now you can take a lot of what we've been doing with the alpha programming. Oh, you're traveling? Guess what? You can still get this workout in. At-home workout and in-club workout. So you got options for both. You got equipment usage that you're going to be using. You still have the heart rate training involved even through the app. Then you have the communication as me as your coach or whoever your coach is at the club to make sure that you're staying on point. So that is a game changer to me because I'm sending a million texts a day before the virtual app to make sure everybody's staying on point. Now I have an app that kind of allows me to be able to connect with different individuals based off of them logging their results versus me just checking in and not even knowing if they did the workout.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that right now, just so everybody knows, if you're a lifetime member, just an in-club member, you have access to what he's talking about with regards to the virtual programming for zero, nothing. Well, what you're paying for your membership. If you're not a member of Lifetime, you can get access to that for $15 a month through our new virtual only membership. So it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, you can have access to that. And then I think coming forward, and if I'm speaking a little ahead, please let me know that there's going to be a virtual live or on demand product where you can get David coaching you in a live setting in a group, and that is, can you go into that?
Yeah. That's going to be a 39 little upgrade because you have that live piece. So the on-demand exists right now within the $15 digital membership, and you guys can access weekly programming, as well as on-demand classes such as yoga, cycle, and things of that nature. When you start to get into the live streaming, that means it's going to be live for that time being, and then it disappears. On demand, you can come back to it any point in time. So the live piece is creating, once again, that atmosphere for you to be present in that moment and make the most out of that. And whatever tidbits you get, it's within that moment, and then it disappears. So that would be an added value piece, because it has been a call out for that, and people want a little bit more of that live experience. So we are looking forward to bringing that to life in February. As far as the international piece, I know that Canada and US right now are able to access it. We are working right now from the international standpoint, and I learned this from my personal experience. I do have a client that is over in Australia. So the member app is not ready for the international piece. The virtual training app, I did find out you can still access from an international standpoint. It gives you access to the programming. So it's still some fine tuning. So that's not going to be pushed out yet until we get all the bugs worked out, because we want to make sure that experience is the full program versus just a piece of it.
Awesome. And, one of the things I want to bring to everybody's attention, again, in the industry, within Lifetime, not within Lifetime, is the massive amount of touches, the massive amount of people that, in this particular situation, David's able to access to help. Everybody got into it to help people, and think about the thousands of people that you're able to help. And then can you talk about how that, kind of free version has allowed you to see success into your, what you're making a living on with regards to your coaching?
Yeah. So you can't put a price to like service. To me, as far as leadership, is just what we do. So it might come off to some individuals as like complimentary, which is great, but you're always building value. And to hit on what you just said, so many of the different individuals, I want to say it's over 800 individuals that I connect with on it every other day or whatever it may be. And you start to see these relationships built from that connection. And then individuals want a little bit more of this education, a little bit more of how to do X, Y, and Z. They see the value, and then they say, oh, okay, it costs X. Great, I'll pay for that, because you built the relationship. You built the trust. If you come at them in a transactional way, then it's going to be a sale. If you build the value in the relationship, you're doing what you're supposed to do as far as a leader within this industry, which is serve individuals, and the value that you build from that, they see and they understand the investment that they're making.
Man, that's beautiful. And, can you spend, again, I could keep going and rattling. So, but this one's important, is obviously one of the things that, I applaud you a ton with is your ability to continually adapt through different things that, are occurring. Obviously going to Minnesota, as I did, when you go into a corporate office, there's an adaptation that is difficult, but beyond that, your ability to adapt to the virtual platforms, it's something that in our industry, there's kind of polarization of, hey, I'm not doing that. I'm just in person and I can't give, in person. And, how has that impacted you? And then, more importantly, if you can give the audience a nugget or two of how you've been able to adapt and the things that you were able to do to be successful in the virtual realm as well as the live realm.
Yeah, I'll speak first on the reason why you should adapt, right? When we look at Darwinism as far as survival of the fittest, most people were thinking, okay, you need to be the strongest and the fastest. But the reality is, those who can adapt to their environment the best is going to be the ones who survive. Same situation here. The world is going towards virtual. I mean, and what I mean by that is some type of application to make things easier for you, what is convenient for you. When you look at Amazon, when you look at Uber, whatever it is, it makes it convenient for you, and you like that experience because now it allows you to have the freedom to come when you please.
Mhm.
So when I started to evolve in the virtual piece, going back to 2007, when we were talking about YouTube and so on and so forth with Instagram, I was getting so many of these touches ahead of time. So when the virtual app launched, it was easy for me to be able to adapt because I had a lot of touches already within the virtual world, right? And how it translates to this app. And then the innovation piece is, now I understood what I was doing years before. I can come to the innovation team and say, oh, what about this? What about that? So in my head, in my eyes, I know virtual programming is the way to go. That's not to say in-person programming or in-person is going away. Human interaction is a must, right? We're doing it right now. Like we need to be able to interact with one another. But what I am saying is you have a bigger net you can cast. I just told you I'm training somebody in Australia. I can't fly to Australia to do a one-on-one session every day, right? So if you're able to touch more individuals and make more impact and create influence within this world, this is how you do it. So whatever you don't know, learn, right? Whatever you have questions on, ask. And that's why I said earlier, remove the ego and elevate and evolve yourself. You got to keep reinventing yourself so you can stay on point.
Oh, beautiful, man. Well, thank you again. It's been an absolute blast. I think, one question that I've got, and I see it happen on your Instagram here and there, is, how many times out of 10 do you beat your wife in a sprint versus her beating you? I had to take it. And if you don't know, David's wife, Michelle, is an Olympic sprinter. She was I don't know.
She went to Beijing. I think she was at that point in time, 6th fastest woman in the world in 2008.
Yeah.
She definitely, she'll let me know every time that she's an Olympian.
Yeah.
To answer your question, when we first started dating, this is before her being in her prime. For those who are listening, I put air quotes up. But we ended up, that was the first thing we did almost on our first date is pretty much race. And she got smoked, okay? She got smoked. Let's be clear here. We were doing a shoot for RX Smart Gear jump ropes. And she just started, she knows how to, you know this as far as being a husband, like they know exactly what buttons to push to get us going. I wasn't properly warmed up, no excuse. And she just started talking. She was like, let's go then. And I jumped out of those blocks, and I want to say maybe 5-6 steps in, grade 2 tear. I mean, and my mindset has been messed up ever since then because I don't want to sprint, right? But that was the worst tear I ever had in my hamstring, and rightfully so. This is her subject matter expert. This is where she's the best of the best at. She's an Olympian, right? Mm-hmm. And I applaud her. But hey, you said how many times? We're 1-1 if you want to.
That's awesome. And how is that transferred into the kids?
Oh man, it's awesome. Our kids are super competitive. My son has a lot of opportunity as far as being coachable. My daughter, oh my gosh, she takes it in and just goes with it.
Beautiful.
So their work ethic is great. Bane just needs to be able to be coachable. He always says, I got it. And we haven't even showed him what it is. Yeah. My daughter, she's a sponge. She absorbs all and knows how to act on it. So,
well, man, I can't thank you enough. And, it's been a pleasure, be able to call you a friend and colleague and, feed off each other over the years. And, what you bring to the organization is unparalleled and second to none. So thank you so much for being on the show. Anything you want to leave the guests with?
I appreciate you too, man. I said it yesterday on my Men's Health Live, and I mean, I'm going to stick with it. I always talk about mind right, body right, but I said what we all have in common, regardless of what sex you are, what race you are, we all have a mind, we all have a heart. What we choose to do with it can change the world. So hopefully that leaves you guys with something to think about. We all have a mind, we all have a heart, and what we choose to do with it can literally change the world for the good or for the bad. I like to take the latter there. I want to make sure that it's for the good. So let's be great. Let's continue to move the world forward. Mind right, body right.
Thanks, man. Have a great day, man.
All right. Be blessed.